Hey guys, Timmy D with DroneMappingTools.com, and in today's video, I'm going to cover the Emlid RS3 and RS2 Plus units. This is a beginner's guide. It is going to cover setting them up. I'm going to walk you through and show you how I pair them together in a Base Rover RTK setup using the Emlid caster service. So if you are brand new to GNSS or you're new to the Emlid units and you just don't even know where to start, this video is for you. For somebody that's experienced and already been using Emlid, is this video for you? No. I am going to do an advanced video covering the advanced features probably next week or the week after, and we'll go into much more detail and show the capabilities of the Emlid Flow app. But for you new guys that are new to it and just trying to figure it all out, this video is going to walk you from setting them up, pairing them up, and then actually going and shooting topo shots and showing you how to export that data. So stick around. I hope the video is very helpful. If there's anything you want to see, let me know. If you have questions, let me know. And by all means, if you want to purchase an RS3 and RS2 Plus, go to DroneMappingTools.com or call the number below, and I'd love to earn your business. Let's get into the video. All right guys, I'm going to run through the setup of the RS2 Plus base and an RS3. You could have two RS3s, it doesn't matter. And it really doesn't matter what industry you're in. All the setup stuff is applicable to any industry. And then obviously the points you're surveying, that'll be unique to different industries. But I have the base unit is just set up on a pole. I'm actually working from home today, so I have this pole in the ground. I got a 5/8 bolt screwed into it, so I can always just put a base unit up there. But it doesn't, I mean, you're just going to have a tripod. It's always best to use a bipod, a tripod bipod if you're setting up your base so it doesn't get knocked over. And anyway, so we got it on, I got it powered up. I have the RS3 powered up. Both of these can be connected by either Wi-Fi or by Bluetooth. If you are at your office and you're doing testing and don't ever connect these to your home or office Wi-Fi, because it will give you grief when you go outside, you need to do a quick test, and then the unit is connected to your office Wi-Fi and not to your phone. You can't see it. You know, once you've been doing it and use them, you just know, oh, it must be on the office Wi-Fi, and you look there. But then what'll happen is you can get out outdoors. It's still connected to the office Wi-Fi, but there's not enough throughput to get your corrections and what have you. It will just cause problems. So trust me, it is best to never ever connect them to your office Wi-Fi. If you have a hotspot, you can do that. When you update firmware, those files are never going to be really that big. Connect it to a hotspot, connect it to your phone to update your firmware. But anyway, so enough of that. So I'm going to go into both of these. We're going to record it on my phone. We're going to look at the settings of each one of them. Once you get them set up and you got them the way you want them, for all practical purposes, you never have to change anything. Just turn them on, set a new base location, and then get your rover connected where it's getting a fix if you're always running Base Rover, and that's all you got to do. So what I want to do, let me get connected to the base, which I already am. Let me turn on my recording, turn on my microphone. All right, so let's go to droning. I'm going to go to Emlid Flow. And again, I'm just going to connect to both of them. They've been in beta forever for Bluetooth connectivity. I don't know why. Minnie, stop that. Minnie's out here helping me record. Minnie is my miniature Australian Shepherd, so she's often in a lot of the videos because I take her everywhere. Hey. But there are some functionalities that are not available when you're connected by Bluetooth, where Wi-Fi you can do everything. But when you are surveying, if you guys go out and take your rover and you're surveying points, it could be telephone poles, it could be points, markers, property corners, doesn't matter. It is always best to connect by Bluetooth to do that. So always use Bluetooth connectivity to do surveys, but when you're setting up your unit, you're turning off your logging and whatever, then I would use the Wi-Fi connectivity, which you see here on the top. So I'm going to connect to that. I'm going to click on it, and I have a fix. And so we're just going to run down each one of these. So in the status, I just simply see which satellites we're connected to. I mean, this is not the most ideal location to be. It's at the house, and we're just going to work with it. But my gosh, if you go out and set up a base, go find somewhere in the wide open. We've got trees here, house there, a big tree right behind you that you can't see. Trees all over here. You know, a lot of your satellites are often in the southwest corner, which would be that way. We kind of have a high tree line. Again, I would never set this base up here if I was going to do a job. I'd go find a more open location. But anyway, our PDOP is at 1. We have a fix, and our age of corrections is 1 second. That's good. If that ever starts to get up kind of high, you know, beyond 2 seconds, that's not good. Anyway, so I'm going to click on the top. Then we're going to go to correction input. I am receiving corrections from the Trimble network. It's through University of Southern Mississippi. And I currently have, well, I'm going to click on the little pencil icon. And I have multiple profiles set up. So I've got my 0.1 navigation. That is nationwide, very good, very good. Then I have the Emlid 477. That is actually for the Emlid Base Rover setup. And so that's one thing you've got to get done, because you want to have a Base Rover setup. I have a different Base Rover setup for like drone mapping tools. Typically, if I'm doing public tutorial, then I'll use my what's considered the DMT account. It's not what I work with. Then what's currently active is the University of Southern Mississippi, using IP address. And then down at the bottom, I have this one, and I'm actually going to delete it because it's a duplicate, don't need it. Yep, delete. Okay, so these are the only ones that I actually need. So let's go back. We'll run through setting everything up once I cover everything. Serial, there's nothing in there you need. I mean, because basically I'll go in there. We're not using any serial connections. TCP/IP, not using that. TCP client, not even using that. There is not anything in this section right here. Those are all ways that you can get corrections. The only thing I ever use is interrup. You could use the LoRa radio. That is not good. I don't recommend it. So you'd never use LoRa radio. I'd always have a cellular SIM card inside this unit, inside your Rover unit. You can get accounts for probably $10 a month. I have 2 gigabyte data plans for the Base and for the Rover. And I mean, if you ever exceeded that, well then bump up to a 5 gigabyte plan. That'd be $15 a month. But you can easily find those through multiple carriers. All right, so we're going to go back out. My base output, that is going to be where we're going to output our corrections. So this only applies to your base unit. On your Rover unit, this would just be turned off, because once we have established our point for the base, then we will go into our base output and we're going to tell it where we are outputting our data. We will turn on our output. Again, I only use interrupt output for corrections. I'll never use the LoRa radio because it's terrible. And then all these others will not apply. You could do local interrupt. That's for very special circumstances. I mean, I have a video set up on doing all these different corrections. So you can watch that video. You'll learn what local interrupt is, and that will be helpful. Logging. So when you go into your logging, we're going to go into recorded logs and settings. Okay. I'm going to click on the cog wheel and show you what my settings are. I don't worry about a log name. It's just going to be the current date and time. I always use UBX. I do not do RINEX. I always do UBX, and then I will convert it. If I need a RINEX file, I will use the Emlid Studio to convert the UBX, which is the raw data file. It's going to have the most data you can have, and convert that to a RINEX, but I only save the UBX file. And then it says split log intervals after every 24 hours. I've never logged for over 24 hours, so there's that. Auto start. Be sure you turn auto start on, because if you don't, there will come a day when you need to do PPK on your logs because something went wrong with RTK, you had a problem, and then somebody forgot to start the log file. So whatever you do, put checkbox in auto start. The rest of them I don't have checked. So there's what I have set, and that's what I use day in and day out for my working, okay? Now we're gonna go back, and you can even see that I turned this on earlier, and it's already been recording for 1 hour and 23 minutes. And then we go to Wi-Fi. Right now it's in hotspot mode. So my phone is connected to this unit. Now, if you ever connect this to a different Wi-Fi, in other words, you're going to provide internet service to the device because you don't have a SIM card in it. Well, if you have one of these little, like an Alcatel Jetpack, I have several of those I use for my controllers, my RC controller. You can connect this to that hotspot. You then would connect your phone to the same hotspot, and that's how you'd run all of this. But what I was saying earlier, don't ever connect this to your office Wi-Fi because it will give you grief. So just trust me on that. Connect it to a little mobile hotspot, or just have a SIM card in it and then connect your phone to that device, okay? So it is in what's called hotspot mode, so I'm connected to it. That's simple, easy peasy, okay? And let's go into settings. My mobile data is on. So when you go and turn your mobile data on, let's look at the, I don't have any APN credentials. There are some carriers actually have APN credentials that you can put in T-Mobile. I don't have any inserted in here, and it works just fine. I'm on T-Mobile. So anyway, that's it. I have data roaming, allow updates using mobile data. Now, so I do not, I'm going to turn that off. I don't know why that's on, because I don't want to do a firmware update over, it's a 2 gigabyte card. So I would actually connect it to my office hotspot and then go in there and say forget that when it's done, or connect it to my Alcatel Jetpack, or even my phone, another phone, to download the firmware. So, but I don't want to do one. And let's see, share. Now this right here, this can get you in trouble. So let's say you do have a 2 gigabyte card in the unit, and you turn on this mobile sharing. When your phone is connected to that unit, that now has become a hotspot for your phone. You could go to YouTube, watch a video, go check your email. But guess what? If you're on a 2 gigabyte plan and you do that, you're going to burn through that 2 gigabytes just like that. So I probably had it turned on earlier, and then I just forgot to turn it off. So I'm going to turn that off because I do not want to share. Now what I will do is, if you ever are having connectivity issues, you can turn this on, and then I can check my internet speed. And I will turn this on, get out of the app, go into speedtest.net. I've got that app on the phone, and I'll test my data speed on there just to make sure I actually have a good internet connection through the SIM card. So in that case, I would have to turn sharing data on, but then when you got through doing that test, you want to turn it off, because if you accidentally go and check email, go to a video, you're like, oh man, I forgot what Tim said, let me go check a video. You'll burn through the data on that card just like that, because 2 gigabytes is nothing, but it's plenty for correction data. So anyway, so I'm gonna close this out, and man, that's okay. So let me go on down the list. Let me go to my GNSS settings. Okay, these are what I have for your base unit. Now I could turn this up. There's really not a reason. It will always resample. When you use your base for PPK on like LiDAR, it will resample this base to 1 hertz, always. It doesn't matter what software you're using. If you do PPK on your drone data for photogrammetry, whatever you're using to do the PPK, I'm not even aware of any software that would not resample this down to 1 hertz, which is 1 reading per second, okay? That is for the base unit, not the rover, but for the base. So I leave my base on 1 hertz, which is 1 reading per second, 60 readings per minute. And then you see I have everything selected except for the QZSS. And then you see my elevation and signal to noise SNR mask value. So there's what I've got for that. That never changes. I don't ever even go in here except to show somebody. Firmware updates. Let's see if there is an update. I'm on 32.2, up to date. And I do not run beta, never ever. I don't, this is for work. I'm not gonna go, I mean, there's some guys that do it and they're very helpful and test it, but not me. I don't wanna have a problem on a paying job. And receiver term, that's really it. Everything else, this position streaming is off. I don't use that. You could turn position streaming on if you're going to stream it to another device, but that's it. So that is the settings for the base. Everything is going to be almost identical for the rover, but I'm going to disconnect. We're going to run through the rover. There's only a few things that are different, and then we're going to run through the actual setup of I'm out here to do a job and this is what I'm going to do to set everything up, okay? So I'm going to go, I have both of them. You can see down here where the Reach RS3 is available. I am going to, now oddly enough, why is my RS3 not available on Wi-Fi? That's interesting. Okay, so I'm just going to connect to it by, I'll tell you why. My RS3 is connected to the office Wi-Fi, and I can't see it here because it is on the office Wi-Fi. If I do that to upload data files, I will sometimes do that. But again, I sit here going, well, why is it not there? And that's exactly why. But man, when you're new to these units, that will throw you for a loop and it'll just mess up your day. So don't do it. But I'm going to connect to it on the Bluetooth, right? And then I will go in and turn it off of the office Wi-Fi so that we are on, I'll connect to it by hotspot, okay? So I'm going to go to my Wi-Fi, and you see where it says it's connected to Base and Rover. That's my home office Wi-Fi, and it's connected. So we want to, I'm going to do activate. I'm going to click on the word activate up here. That's going to cause it to leave Base and Rover and create its own hotspot that I can connect to with my phone. Because if matter of fact, let me just show you something. If I go to settings, I go to Wi-Fi, and I go to Base and Rover. I'm now connected to my office Wi-Fi. Okay? Now I'm going to go back, and I'm going to do refresh. And you see how the RS3 is now, am I recording? Yes, I am recording. You will see how the RS3 shows the Wi-Fi connectivity now. It's because it's connected to the office Wi-Fi, my phone is connected to the office Wi-Fi, and therefore you're seeing them both. But now what I'm going to do is go back to my Wi-Fi. Actually, I'm going to turn Wi-Fi off. I'm going to refresh. Now I'm only going to see the Bluetooth option for the RS3. You don't see the Wi-Fi anymore. So now I'm going to go to Wi-Fi, and I'm going to say activate to activate the hotspot mode. Okay, it even tells you right here, hey, it's going to take just a few seconds. So it will now disconnect the RS3 from the Base and Rover Wi-Fi. It will activate its own hotspot so that now my phone, I can connect to that. All right. So I'm going to go back one screen. I'm going to go down here and click on refresh. And sometimes it will actually take, it'll take a second, before you actually see it in the Wi-Fi settings. And, oh, and I would have to even connect to it. So I'm gonna go here, and I'm gonna connect where it says MDS RS3. I'm gonna click on that, and I'll wait to be fully connected. I am. Now I'm gonna hit refresh again down here. All right, now you see at the bottom, it says MDS RS3 and it's got the Wi-Fi emblem. So we can now connect through the Wi-Fi. So I'm gonna click on that. And that way I have all functionality when I'm doing setup. But again, when you are surveying with the RS3, you want to be connected by Bluetooth. Simple as that. And so on this, it is, right now it says correction input is, it's trying to be connected through the University of Southern Mississippi. My base is connected to the University of Southern Mississippi. So therefore, this one, I only get one connection through that service. I can change it. Matter of fact, we're just going to turn it off, because when we go through the setup, I'll show you what we do on that. So now I'm going to go back. Corrections input. Base output will always be off because this is my Rover. Now you can use any one. I could use this as a base unit if I wanted to. So if I ever go out and I wanted to fly and do a drone flight, I could use the RS3. I could grab a point through point 1 navigation. Then I could turn around and do base output. I could basically turn it into a base. These can be base or Rover just on a dime. Where other units like the StoneX and even Trimble and Carlson, oh my gosh, you got to reboot the whole unit to change what it's doing. These units are absolutely amazing because you can be using it as a base while simultaneously using it as a Rover. It's very good. I'm gonna go to base settings. Now this is corrections is off. I'm sorry, no base settings. I'm not using it as a base, so there's no settings to be done. Logging is going to be the same thing. It's doing UBX. Now this one here, look, I have it turned on because this is my Rover. Go there. I think the position and base correction are actually turned on, and you can actually use those files if you ever needed to. There's no reason. And down here it says full memory behavior, and you overwrite old logs. I didn't really mention that last time, but you definitely want to overwrite your old logs. This thing will hold a lot of logs, but you never want it to get full and just stop. That would suck. And again, auto start is turned on. Always, always, always want that turned on. And I'm doing my logging in UBX. So that's it. So let's close that. We're going to go out. And you see it's been logging for 21 minutes. So I'm going to go back, go into settings. Mobile data is on. My GNSS settings, they're going to be the same, 1535, except I do have QZSS turned on. I don't think it's probably 6 one way, half a dozen the other. But it's set to 5 hertz. Now you saw the maximum is 10 hertz. If you are now let me turn off QZSS, still 10 hertz. Let me do apply. 10 hertz. So I'm really unsure why this one is 10, 5, 10. Maybe there was a 15 on my base unit. Maybe. But anyway, you could do, so drones typically fly on, if I'm not mistaken, the Mavic 3E, when they fly, that's done at like, I think 14 hertz, 14 or 15 hertz would be the rate on that. That thing is moving fast, so you need a lot more data per second. When you are just walking around, when you are hand walking your unit, 5 hertz is all you need. You could set it to 10, but your log files become very large, especially if you had a 2, 3, 4, 5 hour job, you just out walking all day. Your log file can become massive if you're recording at 10 hertz. When you literally only need 5 because you're just hand walking. If you were on a vehicle and you were doing some type of mapping in a vehicle, different ball game. Then I'd have it up to 10 hertz, but not for just walking around with your pole taking shots. All right, so 5 hertz is all you need. I'm going to go out. Now, right now I have the IMU sensor. This is the RS3, so it has a tilt sensor. That will become very handy when you're doing stuff, and you can just put it down at the base of it and have it tilt. You never want to just purposefully lean the thing excessively. I try to keep it as upright as possible, but tilt function, the IMU tilt sensor, that's kind of a game changer. So we'll turn that on in a little bit. Again, firmware updates, sounds, night mode. I probably didn't see some of that. You can get power ports to power these externally, so that's a possibility. If you charge it up, it'll last you all day long. So that's it. We had the IMU sensor, our GNSS settings. We were set at 5 hertz instead of 1. And that's it. The mobile data is on, saying there's nothing else different there. Data roaming, share, I'm going to turn that off. Because I'll fool around and pull something up and burn through my data. So I'm going to turn that off, okay? And that's it. So we're done. we're going to exit back out. I'm going to go in, I'm going to walk you through the setup. We've already gone through all the settings. I showed you what I have. Now it's setup time. So we're going to go to receivers down at the bottom. I'm going to connect back to the RS2 base. So I am going to go to my Wi-Fi settings, and I'm going to connect back to the base unit. That's the RS2. So we should see that in the list. Why are you not there? I'm going to turn my Wi-Fi off. I'm going to turn it back on. And let's see. There it is right there. It's at the bottom. Oh, and it auto-connected to it, which is good. In some cases, you want to auto-connect, and in some cases, you do not. You'll know when you don't. When it becomes a problem for you and you got two units close together and it keeps jumping back and forth, turn the auto-connect off, which I just go into the info, and auto-join, I would turn that off, okay? Now, let's close you. All right. So here's what we want to do. I have come out on a new job. I need to set up my base and establish where it's at. If you were just doing jobs where you are surveying assets in the community, it could be you're scanning all of the fire hydrants, you're scanning all of the light poles, you are scanning all of the power poles. You do not, in general, you do not need a survey grade benchmark that you would originate from. But what you can do is you use your base with your RTK input from point one navigation to set your base so that it is very, very accurate. It's accurate to within 1 to 4 or 5 centimeters. Now, everything you do is going to be accurate 1 to 5 centimeters of accuracy. Very, very good. And when you're talking about just locating poles, light poles, fire hydrants, utilities, any of that stuff, that level of accuracy is A-OK, okay? So what I do is I will go into, I'll create a new survey, okay? So first I will go to my corrections input, and and in your case, you're going to be using point one navigation. So you know what? I'm going to switch over. I'm going to use point one navigation. So it's going to say waiting on corrections, receiving corrections, and then I should get a fix, goes float, top right corner, fix. And when it does a fix, you hear it go boop, and that's how you know you now have a fix, okay? So we got to have that coming in initially. We will turn that off a little bit later, but for right now we want that fix. I'm going to go to survey because I want to set up a new survey, and I'm going to do plus mark in the top right corner, and this is going to be, I always do it by date, 2025-04-21 Emlid tutorial. All right, if I could spell. Now, you don't have to fill out this stuff. I will. Tim, description, doesn't matter. I'm going to do this. If you want to do it in state plane coordinates, you pick it. If you want to do WGS 84, you pick it. UTM, you pick it here. Whatever coordinate reference system, CRS, that you want to work in, and the vertical datum. Everything I do that is survey related, I always do that in state plane coordinates. Everything I do. Doesn't matter, Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi, you name it, it's going to be state plane. So I'm in Mississippi West right here, and my vertical datum is geoid 18. If I wanted to do a different one, I could pick through the list, and if you've never done it before, it'll tell you it needs to download some data, which that's fine. Very small file. All right, and then my linear units are in survey feet. Your linear units down here should match the coordinate system up top. You can see I'm in Mississippi West, foot US. So I want my linear units to be foot US survey feet as well. And everything else should stay the same, so I'm gonna hit save. I prefer to survey my base point, not go in and set it up within the settings. And I'll kind of explain a little bit more about that later. So now I'm gonna hit plus. I want this to be base 1. Okay, I'm just gonna call it, you can call it base, or if you're gonna have multiple base points throughout the project, base 1. Excuse me. If you're gonna have multiple projects, then do base 1, base 2, so that you know what your base points are, okay? Now, we do not have tilt wait a minute. Oh my gosh. I am connected to the wrong device. I am connected to MDS RS3. This is where, how did I connect? Am I done? I'm gonna go to receivers. Folks, I just picked the wrong stinking unit. And you gotta be careful that you don't do something like that. Good grief. I don't know how I did that, okay? So here we go. I'm gonna go to, now I actually gotta turn my corrections output off, because even with 0.1 navigation, I get one connection. Okay, so now I'm gonna connect to the Emlid RS2 beta down below. And up in the top left corner of the screen on my phone, you can see it now says MDS RS2. You just always want to make sure you're connected. So I'm going to go to corrections input. I'm going to say 0.1. Actually, you can just click on where it says 0.1 nav, or I can click on the pencil, and then you can choose which one you want. Well, I do want that one. So I'm going to go back. Ooh, there's that. Okay, so I need to turn on interrupt, 0.1 nav. It should start receiving. Again, I'm going to go to float and immediately to a fix. All right, and we are going to go back. Base output is off for right now. And so now we're going to go back into the survey. Now I'm going to add my base point. And so I'm going to call this base 1, okay? I want to measure this for 2 minutes. Actually, for this, so we don't sit here and burn time, I'm going to set it to 30 seconds. It depends on how far your base is. I would do your base for 2 to 3 minutes for you guys, probably. And for what you're doing, even 30 seconds is probably a-okay too. But I'm going to do averaging, and I'm going to say I want to do, let's do this for 10 seconds. Again, I would never do 10 seconds in the real world, but we're burning video time. Now, my antenna height, I want you to understand this is on a pole. I do not need to know, for my base unit, I do not need to know the height of the antenna. In this case, it's a post in the ground. If I had it on a tripod, a bipod with legs, it doesn't matter. You do not need to know the height of your base. Once you establish the height of it, now if you were going to come back later and occupy the same point, in other words, you're going to put a nail in the ground and have a benchmark that you're going to occupy on different days, absolutely you must at that point use your antenna height. You got to know it. It needs to be very precise so that when you come back and set back up in a day or two or a month or whenever, and you're going to use that same point, you're going to use the same antenna height that you did today. But if it's just a one and done, and you're just using it for a one-time capture and then you're going to move on, you do not need the antenna height. So I am going to set this to 0. Now the reach, it's telling you on this screen, enter your antenna height to the top of the pole, which is to the bottom of this, right here. Well, if I had this measurement of that pole, I could enter it, but I don't. So I'm just going to use 0, and it's going to calculate, it's still going to calculate where the GNSS receiver is in 3D space. The only thing I don't know is, well, how much space is between it and the ground if I had a point on the ground. But I'm going to do save, and then it's going to automatically calculate that 0.44 height difference from the bottom of the receiver up to where where your actual antenna plate is at. Okay? And so I'm going to hit save. Couldn't apply changes. Well, why is that? All right, let's cancel. You know what? I probably lost. Let's see. Let's go back. Let's go to receivers. Yep, I lost my connection. I was. Let's go to settings. Go to there. I'm going to connect to MLid RS2. Okay. Now I'm going to hit refresh down here at the bottom. Now I'm going to connect to the MLid RS2 Wi-Fi. Okay. Now it tells me I still have a fix. I'm going to go into my survey. I'm going to do this all over again. So I'm going to do base 1. Y'all going to have this part down pat. Base 1, I'm doing 10 seconds. I'm going to change that to 0 for the antenna height. And we're going to do measure. Okay? So I'm now measuring from, and I have an RTK fix coming in. So with very good accuracy, I'm going to measure where that antenna is in 3D space. And it's going to be based on the Mississippi West coordinate reference system. Okay? So that part's done. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to tell this base unit, we want you to output corrections for the rover, for any drone flights that we're going to fly, any other devices that need corrections, it can use this base unit. This will serve, the Emlid base using the Emlid caster service can support up to 10 rovers connected simultaneously, okay? So we now have 1 point in this survey. All right, so here's our 1 point that we surveyed just now. I did it for 10 seconds. In the real world, you do 2 to 3 minutes, but we have 1 point, right? So I'm going to click there. We're going to go back. I need to do 2 things. I'm going to go to click on receivers in the bottom left corner. And I want to, first, I'm going to turn my corrections input off because I no longer need corrections input. I got corrections to do the survey to establish where it was at, and we logged that as a survey point, right? It was just base 1 is what it was called. For us to leave corrections input turned on, we are just burning up data that is serving no purpose because now we do not need corrections. So I'm going to turn it off, and you heard it go boo-doo. That's because I turned corrections off. We are now in a single solution because we don't have corrections, but it doesn't matter. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our base output. Before base output, you go to base settings. And we're going to tell this base, hey, I want you to use the coordinate that we just shot a while ago, and that is going to be the coordinate I want you to output to any device that's using this for RTK. So I'm going to go down here and click on Configure. And it says Coordinate Entry Method. I'm going to click on that. I want to do manual. Now, if I would have left corrections on, I could have gone down here and said average fix. And you could tell it ever how long you want to average. It could be 30 seconds, 5 minutes, 15 minutes. And it'll sit there and log for that amount of time in a fixed solution, and it will determine its base point based on that. I don't ever do that. I always want to survey the point so that the base coordinate becomes part of my survey file. It's base 1, I've got that coordinate, and then if you do in fact use your antenna height because you put a benchmark in the ground, now you're able to, that's going to be part of your file, and you can go back and set right back up over it. Again, you can stake it out and go back and find it. But what we're going to do is we're going to choose manual. And so when I go to manual, it says, well, what's your antenna height? I'm going to click on that. It's 0. Remember, a while ago it was 0. It's still 0. I'm going to hit cancel. And then it says choose from project. So I'm going to do that. An Emlid tutorial, that's the one. We only have one point, and you see it there. It's called base 1. That's what we named the point a while ago. When I click on apply, it is going to tell that base your antenna height is 0. So it's basically just using its location in 3D space with no antenna height accounted for. And it's going to apply the coordinates that we surveyed a while ago. So I'm going to hit apply, and then I'm going to hit save. Now those coordinates have been locked into that base. Now we're going to go back and we go to base output, and I'm going to turn interrupt on. I'm going to click on interrupt, and that MP477, that is my Emlid caster service, and it's a free service. You will set up your Emlid caster. You probably already have, and if you hadn't, you go to caster.emlid.com, okay? And that is going to be our base output. Now I'll tell you what we're going to do. I am going to, I'm going to go caster right here, and I'm going to sign in. Always do this. After you put your base online and you tell it to output to the caster service, always go back and log into the caster service. Again, it was caster.emlid.com. And see where it says online? Right there. The MP477 is online. So we're good there. So I'm going to close that. I'm going to go out. And we are done with our base. All right, so here we are. I had to take a break. I had someone come by and visit. So unfortunately, I had to pause, but that's okay. So I'm going to come back, and I need to kind of double check and see where we were. So we had finished setting up the RS2. So I'm just going to log back onto it really quick. Correction output is off. Base output is going to Emlid caster. I can see that MP477. That tells me that is the caster service, okay? And that's it. There's nothing else we need to do. So what I'm going to do now is I want to connect to my RS3. So let's switch over, and I'm going to connect to the RS3 by Wi-Fi. All right, now, so when I go to the RS3, what I don't know is why does it say RS2 in the top left-hand corner? I am not understanding that. So you see, that threw me off right before I paused the video. Like, why in the world does it say RS3? Well, it's saying I'm connected to the RS2. I don't want to be connected to the RS2. This is nuts. Okay. Use cellular. We're going to go back to my Wi-Fi. And it says I'm connected to the RS3 here. I am very, very confused. So RS3, we're connected to that. Refresh. I want to be connected to the RS3 right here. Okay. So when you have Base and Rovers all like sitting next to each other, I mean, the fact is you can run into where, oh, did I connect to this one? Did I connect to that one? In the real world, typically you set your base up and I'm gonna go out and work and I'm not right here having them side by side like we have here. But I am now connected to the RS3. It says it up in the top left-hand corner, so that's good. And so I'm gonna go to correction input and I want it to be using interrupt, but see where it says USM, that's University of Southern Mississippi? I do not want that. I want to use my base. So I'm going to click on this little pencil and I want to do my Emlid caster 477, okay? And it says it's receiving corrections. It'll change from single to float to fix or just single to fix in the top right-hand corner. Boom. And it just went to fix. I don't know, I don't think this microphone would pick it up, but it, again, when it gets a fix, it'll go doo-doo. And when it loses a fix, it'll go dun-dun. It makes two different sounds, so you know that you have a fix. We are gonna leave this on. We want our interrupt corrections coming in all the time. We always want to fix. And that's it. Now our antenna height is, so I'm gonna come here and you know what? I don't know. All right, let me go get something. One thing very much worth having is this little contraption. This is, runners use this to carry their phone on their wrist. But it's also good when you have a phone, like you got an app you're going to use. I don't want to tether this to the pole. I don't. I'd rather have it on my wrist. So I'm going to take that off. All right. And so now, so if you can see that, I can now have this phone on my wrist. So if I want to move my pole around, I can literally do my surveying, still have access to it, but have one hand free, especially if I'm carrying a pole. But one thing that's very important, so I'm going to show you, hopefully the video will pick this up. This pole, like it says, right here it says 2 meters. This is a prism pole, it's not a GPS pole. So when it says 2 meters, it would be 2 meters with the right prism on it, but it's not. So 2 meters, when you measure from to the top edge up there, it's actually 1.88 meters. I put on any pole I have, when I measure them, I put stickers on the side so that I know 100% sure at 2 meters, it's technically 1.88, and at 1.8 meters, so there's a mark, I can put a pin through it, and that's the 1.8 meter slot. Well, at 1.8 meters, it truly is 1.68. So I have both meters and feet listed there. And I would recommend, now if you have a GPS pole, that's completely different because it's going to be, it should be 2 meters, where when you have a 2 meter mark, it should literally be 2 meters. But by golly, you better verify that and make sure. There's a difference between a GPS pole and a prism pole. So ideally, if you're never going to use prisms, you'd always just have GPS poles. So when it says 2 meters, it's 2 meters. But if you are going to have prisms, or you're using, or you just pick up a good deal on a, say like a Seiko pole, then, you know, just as long as you got it measured so you don't make any boo-boos. So We now have corrections coming in. I could go survey a point. And the one thing we're going to do is I want to turn on my lean compensation, right? So I'm going to go to settings. It says IMU tilt sensors off. If you're ever using one of these units for a base unit, you do not need tilt compensation. But if you're using this unit as a rover, two things. Let me back up. If I'm going to shoot control points on a target, like a target for an aerial control point for photogrammetry, I will leave tilt compensation turned off, and I will use my bipod to level up over the point, and then I'll shoot it for, I don't know, when I'm got a base rover, 30 seconds, maybe a minute, but when they're in close proximity, 30 seconds is adequate for the length of time. Now, when I'm just going to shoot topo shots, like I want to go around and just take shots to kind of validate that my contours come in correct, particularly when I do LiDAR work, then I will only take a shot for 5 to 10 seconds. So it's a 5 to 10 second shot, and I will take off my bipod legs and I will turn on lean compensation because I can move very, very quickly. So if I'm doing, say, 5-second average, it'll take the shot for 5 seconds. And remember, we're on 5 hertz. If you do a shot for 5 seconds, then the 5 times 5 is 20. You get 25 shots that are then averaged together. So again, for your rover, you want to be on that 5 hertz settings. That's going to be a good one. But then for the base, it's 1 hertz. So anyway, so I'm going to turn my IMU. I'm going to turn it on. So you can see I'm going to hit on. It's going to do initializing. Now it may prompt me to actually move around because for the IMU to be initialized, this thing has to move around. It's got to move. If you just turn it on after you've been moving around, then you're going to be A-okay, okay? It says move the receiver. So I'm just going to move, and there's some Emlid will tell you just to kind of move this back and forth as you're walking around. But you can just move it. You can tilt it back and forth. And in a minute, it'll actually go to when it says fix, there we go. It now says tilt compensator is ready, okay? So I'm going to go back. I have a fix. My tilt compensator is ready. So I am now going to go into my survey. So I'm going to go to survey. We're going to the Emlid tutorial. I am going to add. Now, we just discussed this a while ago. This pole, I have it on the 2 meter setting. This is not a 2 meter pole. It is 1.88 meters to the bottom of this base. So I have to go in, I'm going to change the antenna height because it's at 0 because that's what I used for my base because we're not worried about figuring out what the ground elevation is. But this, it's in feet. Now what I wish they would do, and maybe they'll change it soon, is allow you to enter like 1.88 M for meters, and then it automatically convert it for you. In the base side, you can enter feet or meters, but in the rover function, it will only take whatever you're working in, which is US Survey feet for this. But I have it on the sticker also. This is 6.168 feet. So I'm going to do 6.168 done feet. I'm going to hit save. And you can even see in this diagram, this little graphic, the actual height is 6.608. So it makes the adjustment for you so that your true antenna height is now the height to the bottom, which was 6.168 plus 0.134 meters and whatever that converts to be feet. And the total antenna height is 6.608. I'm hit save. And it wants me to move. When you sit still, now it's ready. The IMU likes movement. No IMU is ever good when it's sitting still. It always wants to move to know where it's at, where it's been moving. Now, yes, we can stop and take a shot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, we're going to call this Topo 1. Excuse me. And I'm only, 10 seconds is okay. I only want to fix, I do want tilt compensation. You could do vertical offsets if you wanted to. Averaging, we're good. So 10 seconds is good. You know what? I'm going to change it to 5 seconds. For the sake of this, it's all good. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this around, right? So we can see. I'm going to go and let's see if I can level that up. That looks a little more level. So let's back this up a little bit. I'm going to go down here and shoot around the edge of my driveway. And do not cast judgment. If you look down in my garage, it's pitiful. That's on the agenda for spring. We're going to empty that thing out and clean it up. So anyway, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to come down. And again, what I don't want, I'm not worried about being perfectly level. What I want to be is still. Like, even if I lean it just right up against me, like have my shoulders fixed. So this is going to be the edge of my driveway. So I'm going to do measure. These points should all be pretty darn close. In elevation, and we may not hear, I don't hear the sound on my phone because I'm doing recording. But again, this little wrist thing, oh my goodness, this is very nice. Okay, and since I'm going around this corner, again, when you're doing, true line work, now you could do curves, but I'm just shooting, quote, topo points now, not lines. But what I'm going to do is shoot these much closer together because we are on this curve. Now the cool thing is, if I go up to, if I had a telephone pole and I need to be away, or I need to kind of get over in a fence, I truly can have my unit leaned over at even an angle like this right here. I'm going to hit measure. What I don't want to do is be moving the unit while it's measuring. That's no good. So come down. All right. Now, I'm also just going to go and I'll take some topo shots on the ground. The ground's actually hard. If you're doing true topo work, you can put a topo shoe on the bottom so that your point doesn't, if the ground is soft and it sticks in the ground by a half an inch, well, you're producing error in your data because your point's slipping down into the ground. So put a topo shoe on there and you'll be right at ground level. So this is going to be, and what I do is when I go out and do LiDAR, I will take these shots and go up a hill. Anywhere I have pretty drastic changes in elevation, I'll take a lot of shots so that I then can use these shots to look at my contours and see how accurate my contours were generated. Now, if it was a area where you're up really close to trees, I would have to get the total station and get shots there. But when you're out and wide open, you're going to get good data. When you take this unit and I don't care if it's the Emlid, If it is any other brand and you start getting up close to houses, you're going to have multipath errors. That's where the signals coming from the satellites come in, they start bouncing off. Even here, we could truly have multipath errors because we got this big wall right beside us where it comes down, bounces off, and it picks up reflections off this wall as well as coming just from the sky. And so you have to learn to be cautious of that. You may end up taking longer observations, and just know that when you're right up against a building, you're getting error in your data. So, but for this, let's say I was going to, I want to show you something. So we're going to move this over. Might be a little tilted, but that'll be okay. All right. If we wanted to do telephone poles, well, one, rather than have this right up next to the pole, I'm just going to stick it at the base, and I'm just going to call it pole 1. Right? Okay, measure. Now, if this pole had a fence where I couldn't get to the pole, what I can do is just be even with the pole. I can just literally get even with it. And in my description, I can do offset. And if you can see the pole, one thing you could do is actually use like a disto laser, any laser, to measure how many feet offset you are from the pole. So if the pole was in someone's backyard, you didn't want to cross the fence, but you can literally mark the spacing of the pole for, say, a telephone line. Now I can mark this, but then if I had a disto or any other laser, I shot it, and let's say I had I've got a 10, in this case it's what, 4 foot. So I got a 4 foot offset. That's what I want to put, 4 foot offset. And now when I measure, I will have in the description, it's going to say 4 foot offset. Now if I go back and let's say I had another pole right in line with it. So this is in line. Accept. Okay, so again, if you sit still, there we go, my tilt compensation. Pole 2. Now why did it do that? So let me go back and look at my points. I'm going to go look at 16 objects. Pole 1. Now what I don't know is so let's go to pole 1. I'm going to do stakeout. And let's see. This right here is pole 1. There we go. So we staked out pole 1. Pole 2 did not. There is no pole 2. So it didn't have a fix. So we're going to go back to survey. Again, we want to do pole 2. But remember I said if we need to do an offset, I can just get even with it. So I actually have that. We're going to do 4 foot offset. And I want to measure. Okay, now I go to pole 3. Let's say this was pole 3. But what I want to do is I'm going to get rid of this offset because I don't have an offset. Now I'm going to measure. All right, so now we go back and let's look at my objects. Okay. And I can even bring in my satellite imagery if I want to. and pole 3. I'm looking for it. So I guess pole 1 and base 1 are going to be pretty darn close to each other. Pole 2, you can see there that it's offset. And then pole 3. So anyway, that is an easy way of shooting poles. And then if you had a laser, you could indicate in the description what your offset was and be able to just go right down the line and continue shooting them. Man, so it wants me to move the receiver. Now we got to fix. So if you ever just sit still, then the IMU will become kind of dormant and it'll say, hey, I need you to move for me. So anyway, man, I believe that's going to be it. Now, if I want to export these points out, I'm done with my mission. I'm in the field and maybe somebody in the office says, hey, I need that data now. What you can do is I can go to here, I can say export. I can export a CSV. I can do all columns. If you want all columns, you can find out from that. You can see what your baseline was. You can look at your errors. All the data is there. I would always recommend doing all columns. So I'm going to do export. And then from here, all you got to do is you can either do like Google Drive. You can upload it to Google Drive. You can do Gmail if you have another email on your phone. So I think Google Drive and Gmail are the two best methods for sharing your data. And honestly, doing Gmail, because once you open it up and go to send, it will literally just attach it to the email. It's going to be a very small file because it is a CSV file. Send it to the person in the office. They can pull it up, and voila. Matter of fact, if you are using two different, let's say you do have total stations that you're using, but yet you're using the Emlids for your GPS. You could go out and shoot your control with the Emlid unit, set control, export this out in email, then in your controller, bring that email and import the CSV file so that you have control files for your total station in order to do a resection with your total station. So just another awesome way that you can use this with a different brand. Maybe matter of fact, that's what I do because I have a Trimble S6 total station. I can set control with these. Then I can easily email out the pins file. So instead of all columns, I do PENZ, the point, easting, northing, elevation, and description. And then in my Trimble Access, I can bring that in and then set up my total station using the points that I set with the Emlid. So anyway, if you think of any questions or is there anything I didn't cover or you run into any snafus, just give me a shout. But hopefully this video will help people get everything set up and be able to do some good with the Emlid units. All right, so I actually forgot one thing, and when you're done, I mean, the last thing you want to do is shut your units down. Always shut down your rover first, then do your base. So we're connected. In the top left-hand corner, it says I'm connected to MDS RS3, my rover. So I'm going to go back to receivers, and then I'm going to get out of this section, and I'm going to go to logging, and I'm going to tell it, hey, I want to stop logging. Okay, so I'm going to pause that. And if I were to expand, I'm going to click on recorded logs and settings. You're going to see that it is writing the log file. So see where it says compressing 7, 8, 9. It'll take a few minutes to compress all of this into a zip file. Because once we are back in the office, if for any reason I need to download the log file, if there was something wrong, we lost RTK, we can always download the log file. This is if you're using the RS2 Plus and or the RS3. The Emlid RX does not have a log file, it's RTK only. If you lose RTK, well, you just got bad data. But these two units here, they record the UBX files, which can then be used for doing post-processing on these units. Now, if you are flying a drone, let's say you're doing a LiDAR mission, or even if you're doing photogrammetry and you need to do PPK, post-processing kinematic, on those flights, then you absolutely need and want the log file from your base, right? You won't need it from the rover, but you will need it from the base. So anyway, so now it is compressing at 78%. It's close to being done. I always let this finish before I actually power it down. What I'm really not sure is if you power it down, I think that it will finish writing the file before it truly shuts down the GPS unit. I'm almost positive it'll say shutting down, but now it's done. So I'm going to click on the X in the top left corner. I'm going to go back to receivers, and on this where it says MDS-RS3, I'm going to click on it, and at the bottom you'll see a menu that'll pop up. I'm going to say shut down. Yep, you sure you want to shut down? Yep, shut down. Boom. Now the RS3, the logging has stopped. It's been shut down. And now I'm going to connect to the base, and I'm going to do the exact same thing on the base. So I'm going to click on refresh. There's my RS2. So I'm going to click on the Wi-Fi. And that is when you shut your log files and stop logging, you always want to do that through Wi-Fi, not through Bluetooth. So now I go to my logging. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to stop. Because this is 1 hertz, it is 1/5 the size of the rover, and it will process much, much faster and zip, well, almost, I guess, 5 times faster than the rover. And if you did the rover in 10, it can take a long, if you did 10 hertz, oof, it can take a while to compress that. But we're done. So this one was done much, much faster. Now, when you get into the office, the best way to download these files is to then turn them back on in the office and connect your computer to the Wi-Fi and then download it directly to your computer. By far, the best way to download your log files. Yeah, you could download it to your phone and then try to email it, but those logs can be pretty decent size. So I would always take these into the office, connect my computer directly to them, just like I do my phone, but then you go into your log, because like if I go to my log setting, no, we don't want to download. If I click this down arrow, that's saying, hey, I want to download this log file. So that's how you would do that, very easy. And so I'm going to close this window, right? And we're going to go back to receivers. And then again, you just click on the receiver name itself, and that will give you the option. It'll pop open a menu to restart or shut down, and I want to shut it down. So I'm going to do shut down and hit shut down one more time. And now it has been shut off. We are ready to tear these things down, put them back in the case, and call it a day. Your base, when you go out to fly or do your job, your base should be the very first thing you set up when you get out of your vehicle, and your base should be the very last thing that you turn off, stop logging, and then power down. So the base is first set up, and the absolute very last thing that you stop logging and then power it down. So again, I hope this has been helpful. You guys holler if you have any questions.